Hi, welcome. In this video, I'm going to go over some details about Program 9. I'm also going to make a couple of more videos, one for the student version and different ones for the customer version. All right, so for this assignment, we're going to be using an array of structs to organize your information in your program. You can work with another student. If you want to work with another student, I recommend one of you select customer and the other one select the student. Um, there's a lot of details in the assignment specification, so this is just an overview of like the idea of it. So please read all instructions carefully, and if you have any questions, be sure to ask. Don't make any assumptions. But the idea is that one of you will work on the student, and then the other one will work on the customer, and then you can share your code. They're very similar. Hopefully you've been working all semester and you've done your programs 4, 5, and 6, so they're all based on those programs. And I've given you some code for programs 5 and 6 to help you, so you, in case you didn't get your program to work as expected. And so anyway, but you can work with someone else. The only thing I ask is that you please add the name of the person you're working for to your header file. So be sure to put the name, your name, and the person you work for in your header file. If you choose not to work with another student, you are not required. You can certainly work by yourself, but please indicate that also in your header file. All right, so the two options are you could either do student or customer. So student is based on program 5. I went ahead there. There's instructions for this overall instructions. There's this video for overall instructions, and then there will be instructions for student and instructions for customer. So there's a PDF with instructions for student and specifics, and then there's code, not the code with the struct, but the code that implements program 5 for student. If you want to do customer, there's instructions for customer in a PDF, and then there's code, working code for customer based on a combination between program 4 and program 6. I removed the input-output parameters, so you don't have to deal with any input-output parameters for this assignment. So I will be doing a video, at least one video for student and at least one video for customer. This is just overview. My recommendation again is that one of you pick student, the other one pick customer, and that way you kind of, you're still doing individual work, but you can share with your partner and help each other. They're very, very similar. All right, so if you decide to do student, you're going to add some menu commands. And the menu has changed a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to print, not the first. You can put the menu commands in any order. But the added features, we're going to have an array of structs, so you could print the entire list onto the screen. You can print the information for only one student onto the screen. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to select S because you're going to have to pick which student you want to be using, and that's going to be based on the index. So you're going to have an array of structs, and you're going to be working with one student at a time. So you have to use S to select which of those students you want to work with. And when you select the student you want to work with, that's the student you will add points to. You will calculate and display the average. And you can continue just like in program 5 to add points and calculate the average until you pick S again to select a different index for a different student. N is different for this program. N means to add another student to the end of the list. So if you have your list like this, and these are your students, and your count is going to be, if you have students here, so that means that your count is 4, then 4 is going to be the first empty one where you're going to add a new student. And of course, I'm going to make videos and go over this. And so please, the more that you work on this yourself, the better, will prepare you for being able to manage an array of structs, which is a very important concept to be able to do, in addition to help prepare you for the final exam. All right, so you are going to use a struct. You're going to have an array of structs. So for struct student, we're going to have 6 fields, 2 character arrays, first name, last name, 2 integers. Each student should have a unique ID. The other integer is the counting the number of grades, so you can calculate the average. And then you'll have two doubles. One is the points total and the other one is the average. And this is not going to be reset, so you can just keep adding and adding. And if you go back and you want to add more grades to a previous student, as long as you select that ID, it should work as expected. Obviously, you know, the grader is not going to test for everything, and there might be a few things that don't work exactly perfectly, but that's not the focus, is to make a perfect grade calculator. The focus is to manage an array of structs and be able to add data to it and print the data, etc. So be sure to take a look at the sample output. So this is what your struct will look like. This is C, so we use the typedef. So please use typedef struct. That is the C way of declaring a structure. And each one should have a unique ID. You can make that up whatever you want, a last name, a first name. These you're going to initialize to 0 when you set your first 5 students in your list. You're going to fill your list with 5 students initially because you want to have something to work with. You don't want to have to enter first names and last names. So I'm going to go through what that's going to, you know, an overview of what that's going to be like. So again, you have 2 character arrays, first name, last name, 2 integers, a unique ID, and the count for the grades, and 2 doubles, the points and the average. And the average will change, obviously, if you have more points and you add more grades. All right, so this is an array. So you're going to set the size to be 100, which means you're going to have 100 students in your list. So this right here, list at index 0, this is a student. So that's the thing that you need to recognize, that list at index 0 is a student. Just like if I said student S1, that means that S1 is a student. So is list at index 0, list at index 1, list at index 2. All of these are students. So the same way that I can go s1.id, I can say list at index 3.id. So S1 is a student, list at index 3 is a student, s1.id, this is data type integer. List at index 3.id, this is data type integer. So that's what you need to grasp this concept of managing the data. Keep in mind that we are just doing a struct made of data that we are already familiar with. We already know what ints are, doubles are, character arrays are, and that's the data type you're using in your struct. All right, so right away, you're going to put 5 students into your struct. So these are the students I selected to put in here. Again, you can decide which students you want to put in there. I've just made up names so I could have something in the sample output. So again, keep in mind, list at index 0, this is a student. List at index 0.id, that is an integer. I just picked a number, a unique number for each one of my students. Because I'm using C, I cannot say list at index 0.lastname equals Winehouse. I have to use string copy. So you need to pound include string.h in order to use the string copy function in this program. This is the only time you're going to use string member functions in this program, but I want to reiterate that C does not allow you to assign strings to character arrays, and also in C, strings are declared as character arrays. So I'm setting the points and the grade and everything to 0 because those are going to be calculated when I run the program, and that will all be demonstrated for you in another video. After I've added, now my student count is not 0 anymore, now my student count is 1. And this is the important thing. You will see that this is index 0, this is index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, etc. And you will see that now that count is 1, 1 is now the next empty spot. So I'm going to be That's going to become important when I want to add new students to my list. I'm going to add new students to my list at index count, or in this case, student count. This is a concept video, so this is not all the code. The code will be later. This is just showing you that as long as I keep student count, I'm going to have an empty spot. So after I put 5 students in here in these, then my student count is going to be 5, and that's going to be the place to put the next one. Then I change it to 6, and then that will be the place to put the next one. So now I've put 2 in. Now my student count is 2. Again, this is index 2. That's the next empty one. Now I've put my third one in. My student count is 3. Again, this is hard coding them in, so I don't have to use the count here. The reason I don't have to use the count here is because in a function, I'm just going to fill this so that later when I want to calculate some grades, I have some students to work with. I don't want to have to start from scratch with an empty list. It's very tedious to have to, enter that information. So I want to right away at the beginning of my program, before I even do my menu or anything, I want to set it up with 5 students. So now my count is 4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 students, but they start at index 0, 1, 2, 3. So now index 4 is my next empty one. And the unique IDs, the names, obviously, I just picked names. The unique IDs are just numbers that I picked. You could pick any numbers you want. I just choose to pick something that's not the index. All right, so now I have my 5th student. I now have put 5 students into my list. I'm choosing to do it this way because this way is very clear that, and it helps, you guys are students, you should be learning and understanding how things work. So this helps me understand that this is an integer, this is a character array or string, this is a character array or string, and these 3 are doubles. So by doing it this way, I'm reiterating the fact that list at index 4, that's a student. I use the dot operator to get the field within my student, for example, ID, and then I turn that into an integer. So by hard coding them in like this, really reiterates how you use the dot operator and how you manage an array of structs. So again, these are the menu commands. We are going to be able to print your list onto the screen, so you'll be able to implement this right away and test it because you've got 5 students. We're going to print the information for 1 student, and you're going to have the user enter the index in order to find which student you want to print. Then if you want to add points or calculate, you're going to have to pick the index of the student that you want to do that for. And then when you want to add a new student, that's going to take into account your student count, because that's going to be the next empty one. The next empty student is going to be your list at index student count. So we will do this in the compiler. This is just overview. All right, so that is the overview of the student. Again, just to repeat, the details of the assignment are in a PDF document, and there is a code right here, Sorgente student code, to help you to get started on that. Now we're going to go over customer. Customer is a little more complicated, so if you do decide to work by yourself and you think that, there's time, it's the end of the semester, you may want to work on the student one. It's a little less complicated. Obviously, the customer one has more features because you have to select the item and then you have to set the price and then select the quantity. So again, if you are working with a friend, one of you should work on customer, the other one should work on student, but you have each other to work together on this. If you're working alone, my recommendation would be to do the student one. If you do choose to do the customer one, there are detailed instructions in the PDF, and then I have given you working code for a It's not really program 6 because I took out the input output parameters, but it's program 6, more similar to program 5 without the input output parameters. All right, so let's go over the menu options for the customer. It's going to be the same. You print the entire list onto the screen. You're going to be able to print the information for one customer based on the index. You're going to have to, if you want to add menu items the same way we were doing and check out, you're obviously going to have to set which customer and use the index for that. So everything is the same, and then add a new, oh, this should be customer, whoops, add a new customer to the end of the list. I better fix that in the document. All right, so everything is going to be the same except for, obviously it's going to be, the printing the list, the one customer, adding a new customer, except it has a little bit different information. The big difference is how you're going to do the checkout and do the items, but everything else is very similar between customer and student. All right, so the customer is going to be a little bit different. It's going to have 2 strings, a first name and a last name. It's going to have one unique ID for each customer, but this one's going to have 3 doubles. It's going to have the account balance, which you're going to have to set because you need an account balance in order to make any orders, or you can set it at 0 if you want. It's going to be the same where if you don't have enough money, it's just going to prompt you for the money until you can pay the bill. But it's going to have 2 other doubles. One is the order total, the current order total, and then you're going to just keep a record of the previous order total, because after you check out, you want to reset the order total to 0, but you might want to know what the previous order total was. Now, obviously, you could add other features and have an array in here with a whole bunch of orders, but we just, you know, in the interest of time, we're not going to manage an array of doubles inside of our struct. But you could do that. We're just not doing that for this assignment. So you're just going to keep track of the previous order and then the current order. So this is what the struct would look like. Again, we're using typedef. This is C, so you want to use the typedef. We have our unique ID, our last name, our first name, the account balance, the order total, and the previous order total. All right, so this is our customer list. Same idea. You want to put, this would happen when you copy and paste. 5 customers. Hopefully it's okay in the document. If it's not, you can figure that out. We have 5 customers. We have our list. Our list size is 100. And we have a customer count. We start out with 0 because we haven't added any customers yet. Whoops. Then I already put 2. So my first customer was put in, and that should have been list at index 0. I'm not really sure why I can't go backwards here. Anyway, so at list at index 0 was my first one, ID 001. Prince Nelson was his name, and I decided the balance was going to be 20. That would have made count 1. Then I put my second one, Brandon Boyd. His balance is 40. His unique ID is 1002. Now the count is 2. That's the index right here. The next empty index is here. So again, this is the same as we were doing with the student. List at any index I, any I, 2, 3, 4 is a customer. List at index 1 dot ID, that is an integer. So just remember that it's the same thing. We are just doing customers now instead of students, and we have a couple of different fields. And you do need to assign the account balance because you don't have to, but you should put a reasonable balance so that you can actually, your customer can make some purchases and they don't all start at 0. So now our count is 3. We added our next customer. Our count is 4. We added our next customer. Our count is 5. We've added our next customer. So now our count is 5. 5 is going to be the next empty one. So when we go to add our next one, we will be at list, at index, customer count, which in this case at the moment is 5, and that's going to be the next empty one. So when you select N to add a new customer, that's where it's going to go. And then you're going to change it, and then customer count will become 6. And then it will go to the next one. And you can fill all the way up until you get to customer count of 99, which I don't think any of you are going to put 100 customers in there, but it takes a long time. But that's how we're setting it up to be available to store 100 customers. And just to review the menu options here, you can print your entire list. So that's going to require a loop where you're going to print the entire array of all the customers. And since you start out with 5, you're going to be able to do that. Print the information for one customer. That will be based on the index. Set the current customer. Again, you're going to base that on the index. Once you've selected or set the index, this is not related to that one. This is related. You set the index, then you can add and check out. After you check out, you might want to set a different customer. And if you want to add a new customer to the end of the list, you select N. And if you select Q, you will quit the program. All right, so in the next videos, I will be doing separate videos, one for student and a different one for customer, maybe a couple for each.